Today, more than 50 teams have made their way to iRacing's virtual Nürburgring as they look to start things off strong in Germany. Today, it's the IVRA GT Sprint Series, powered by Heusinkveld, as the top drivers get ready to start a brand new campaign. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside the booth for today's action is Stefan Schlacker, along with our producer Hugo Weiss, as we get ready to go racing at the Grand Prix Striker circuit here at the Nürburgring. When it comes to the start of a campaign such as this one, Stefan, the pressure is on to be able to make sure you execute, to make sure you're able to start off strong, and these drivers definitely going to feel that pressure today.
Most definitely, Justin. As you said, it's most important to get off on the right foot. We have a highly competitive field, as we have already seen in this practice session, and what better place to start your campaign than at the beautiful Nürburgring.
Gonna be a season that lasts all the way to May 2023. The Nürburgring Grand Prix Striker circuit leading things off, followed by Belgian International Enzo Dino Ferrari. You have Daytona, the Belle Isle circuit, Suzuka, Monza, Road America, Mont Pelerin circuit, a part of that schedule. Plenty of different types of tracks to be able to work your way through. Plenty of chances for attrition, but plenty of other circuits with the chance for a solid amount of flow throughout the start of the season. Stefan, the pressure is definitely going to be on for these competitors, especially when it comes to the three divisions in line. There are three divisions these teams are battling in amongst for these championships this season, all of which come up with prizes to battle for this year.
Yeah, most definitely, and that will easily keep the competitive field up and going because of these very nice prizes that Heusinkveld has provided for these drivers. Quite sure that we're gonna see some fierce battles for the division winners.
Absolutely. As seen, Division 1, the Heusinkveld 3 pedal set Sim Pedals Ultimate Plus, according to the base plate. Division 2, the Heusinkveld 3 pedal set Sim Pedals Sprint, including the base plate. And of course, Division 3 also battling for the Heusinkveld 3 pedal set Sim Pedals Sprint, including the base plate throughout the campaign. Drivers are in the midst of their preparation for qualifying. 20 minutes of group qualifying to determine the starting positions for today. The race distance, an hour and 55 minutes. Track position could be vital for a lot of these teams to make sure they start off this season strong as we roll through the warm-up lap for qualifying.
Yeah, indeed, and the good thing is, from practice, we can already say the IVRA admins have made a very good job with the balance of performance. We have seen 4 of the 5 cars that actually are taking part in the IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld inside the top 6. So very, very great job by everybody that has come up with this balance of performance. Should also give us a great shout here in qualifying.
Are 2 penalties to note from the warm-up session. 2 drivers entered with either the wrong name or the wrong number. Of note, Absolute Motorsport, Acelet Jr., they ended up having the wrong number in sim, a 30-second stop and hold to start the race. The 258 entered as their own name, so they will also have a 30-second stop and hold to start off the season. Keep an eye on one of the Heusinkveld cars. Make our way around the racetrack. This is Daniel Hake trying to start things off strong for this respective session. And when it comes to the Nürburgring, keep in mind the ebbs and flows of this racetrack. Very well racy, so to speak, but several different chances to make passes today.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Grand Prix Strecke gives you quite some nice passing machines. Turn 1, obviously one of the more favorable ones, but don't forget about the hairpin at the very bottom of this track as well before you climb up through the Michael Schumacher S. And then once again, another great passing opportunity. So you really can make your chances count and don't need to be preparing for laps on end to make moves happen, because the Nürburgring also offers great opportunities for mistakes that you can jump onto your competitor and have that sneak attack to take away that position.
Following along with the 148, keep in mind, we mentioned 3 divisions as part of the series. How that essentially structures is, for those divisions, there are class points for 1 driver entry and 2 driver entries, and there are essentially classifications based on each I rating group, which essentially associates class points to that I rating grouping. Essentially, if you're, say, Division 1, you can have 2 pro drivers, or 1 if you're running solo. If you're, say, Division 2, you have to be a little more flexible on the map to be able to add it up, where you can have, say, a pro driver, but an emeritus driver, which is a 3 to 4,000 I rating. So in other words, it comes down to which drivers you have available with their I rating in terms of classifications, on which team you then in turn get to put in amongst the divisions. A fair split on the divide between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd divisions. The start of this season. Up at the top of the board to start things off in AT Racing, 151.1. Keep in mind, these times expected to fluctuate over the next 15 minutes, and AT expected to be one of the favorites for this season.
Yeah, most definitely. It's gonna be really interesting what Max Riedmüller can do in this new Mercedes-AMG GT3 car. Already set a nice lap in practice. He was, I think, if I remember correctly, about a 10th or so faster than everybody else in practice. So if we just go off that, they are most definitely the big favorites to take away the first pole position of the year.
Take a look at the racers. Meanwhile, it's Marco Silva driving the 333 machine, 3rd division. Going to be interesting to see how the drivers fare out. The 3rd division features teams such as the World of Sim Racing team this campaign, Olympus Esports. Also keep an eye on in that 3rd division this season. And as we continue to prepare for today's race in turn, it's mentioned the track conditions are very cool to start off the day. It is 3 p.m. in Sim, but it is October 29th in Sim as well, meaning the temperatures are under 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the track and air temp today.
Yeah, and it also means that our track, once we get past 4 p.m., are gonna dip very fast down to that 18 degrees. Now, that's not gonna be too much of a change. It's only 3 degrees Celsius, but if you're not set up for it, it can have a little bit of problems, especially with that track evolution. We're still gonna see as well throughout this very long race, the track is only going to get slippier after we have crossed that 100% mark for the track. So really have to be careful and be set up for all of those changing grip conditions as Marco Silva comes his way up now to the NGK chicane.
It's going to be one of the difficult parts of the racetrack for those who kept in mind some of the various series seen as of late. That is one of the major trouble spots, especially if you go side by side in for that chicane, as we've seen in the past couple days drivers attempt. Silva this time, a 152.6. That's towards the bottom of the board as a whole, this qualifying session so far. Keep in mind, you see some of the drivers in Division 2 having some strong qualifying performances. Take a look at the 121, who is in 3rd. Meanwhile, a jump up from the practice times by 3 spots. GSE Racing by ACI. Niels May behind the wheel for this respective session. Maximilian Renner as well on the box currently. Keep an eye on this qualifying session. This is amongst the Audis in the field today. That's that POP you mentioned coming in with that balance between the cars.
Yeah, very nice thus far. I mean, we do have a Mercedes leading 2 BMWs, then that Audi of the GSE Racing by ACI. But the first Porsche right now a little bit down in 6th place, 151.468. That's of Team Fordzilla. So still doing a very good job. It's only 3/10 between 1st and 6th right now, all the way down to, what is that, 20th actually. We're within a second. Tells you how competitive this field is. And we have Delta V Racing now, who have jumped up to 2nd place, being the first Division 2 car.
Yeah, that's a big jump up by the 260 indeed. Delta V Racing currently having Johan Martin Mayer behind the wheel of their respective car. 121 completes their respective lap. Did not have a count lap. Keep in mind, if you have an off track in iRacing, it invalidates the lap time. About esports has become a very noteworthy team when it comes to this respective side of the sim racing world. We've seen a lot of them as of late since their jump into the sim racing world in the past year.
Yeah, doing a very good job already just after so few competitions to already be such a nice jump up for them. Probably a lot of teams envy that kind of performance.
But of course, when it comes to the world of racing, the car seat belts and motorsport product manufacturers part also affiliated with the Sauber Group. Of course, has open wheel racing experience at the highest levels of motorsport. Sandro Santosi currently trying to set up a counting lap time, the best time a 1:51.4 to begin this respective session so far. You can see just how difficult it's going to be in some sections. Make sure you don't go off for an off track in this qualifying.
Yeah, Nürburgring, a track that has some lenient off-track displays, but you have to be all the way out there to maximize not only your line, but also your flow. The Nürburgring really dependent on that flow. If you don't catch that wave just perfect, you're gonna lose tenths on end on every single corner to the fastest lap that is out there.
Meanwhile, you see some shuffling on the qualifying board. German Sim Racing putting in a flyer. They have just jumped Maniti Racing. Delta V had jumped ahead of both of them moments ago as well. Massimo Catello now up to the top of the board. German Sim Racing expected to be one of the favorites in the 127 today for the respective division. Also, expect the RSR cars to be quick. The RSR machines always fast when it comes to the virtual world. Top 10 in qualifying so far for their 163.
Yeah, doing a very, very good job. Those guys are, but still a little bit further up. I expected them only in that 10th place right now, 4/10 behind your leaders, and the qualifying times themselves also not quite up there yet. We still have about 8.5 minutes to go, but right now we are still about 3/10 off of what Maniti did in practice, which was a lap without draft as well. So Maniti themselves a little bit behind pace, but 8.5 minutes, anything can still happen.
Keeping an eye on one of the Division 2 drivers, Sandro Bersani, who is driving for iLiveries, Vibe Sports Purple. One of the drivers and teams to keep an eye on today. They also have in this respective class to keep an eye on Fiercely Forward, who's been very strong in the past in the sports car series. Olympus Esports has a Division 2 entry. German Sim Racing and Team Heusinkveld have Division 2 entries. We've already mentioned Delta V being flying quick in this qualifying session.
Yeah, iLiveries, the car we're on board with right now, the 241 in 3rd place in their own division. Deutsche Payment, a Monkey Bund, is in 2nd place at a 287, but most importantly, they are 4/10 off of your leaders in class, which still is Delta V Racing in 3rd place overall, the 260. Johan Martin Meyer doing a very, very great job behind the wheel of that BMW M4. Sandro Mazzani now making his way up to the last corner. Actually goes into pit lane.
A lot of drivers are electing to come in for pit stops here to close up the qualifying sessions or make some adjustments, it appears, as plenty of drivers are running into each other, you just seen, right around the 284. To avoid the trouble that time is the Delta V racing machine. That is Frederick Hochez, who is driving behind the wheel, putting up a 152.1 as a result. That's the second of the two Delta V racing cars. Clear up any confusion, the difference is one car is more black in color, one car is more white in color. Speaking of Division 2 drivers, 244 really needing to step it up. They are currently towards the bottom half of qualifying overall to make Performance Junior Black car.
Yeah, 18th right now overall. Avanzini really needs to put in a lap here, otherwise it does look a little bit blank for the 244. Coming now through the fast last chicane into the last turn. Is this going to be a new personal best for Thomas as he comes over the line here very soon?
Coming across the stripe, personal best of a 152.7. It's a 153 flat, so not as quick as he may have been looking forward to. Plenty of the Division 2 drivers trying to bump up their times, such as Jason Dilworth on the racetrack. Now, we had a bit of a discussion before the race today where Team Fordzilla is also in the race today as one of the Division 1 teams. They aren't driving a Ford, however. There is one Ford in the field, and it's not Pablo Lopez in the 199. Orbit Motorsport Venus is the only Ford in the field today in Division 2, 36 in qualifying.
Yeah, even Bass right now behind the wheel of that Ford GT3 car. Interesting choice of cars. I personally want to go for it. But yeah, if you want to have some fun, most definitely that Ford GT is your car to go to. Not very often taken. And I guess, viewers out there, if you want to have a little bit of an underdog to cheer for, Ethan Bass and Orbit Motorsport Venus, most definitely your go-to.
Very curious to see how he is. He is considered one of the fastest Ford GT3 drivers on the sim. So wink wink towards the direction of a certain team, but wink wink towards an eye to keep on for today. As Bass, his personal best, a 152.4 so far in this session. Down to the final 4 minutes of this qualifying session specifically, and it looks like he's trying to get himself set up for a flyer. He was running at a whopping 105 miles per hour to prepare for this lap. ET Racing has pulled off the racetrack for the time being. They may have time for one lap if they come back out. Bit of a miss of the corner there heading to the arena section, Stefan. Looking a little bit tight.
Yeah, the Yokohama hairpin, he was a little bit wide, did outbrake himself a little bit, slid wide on the apex because he was still carrying too much speed. Obviously, that big drop-off as well didn't help him there at all, pushing him even further wide than what he would have wanted to. Still recovered quite nicely through the Mercedes arena himself. Now runs up to some traffic through the Ford chicane, though this might ruin his lap a little bit as he has to concentrate on what these guys are doing, but very respectful from both the German sim racing guys and the RSR by Butt Kicker, giving him plenty of space. Squares off the exit now as well off the hairpin, and up the hill he goes.
He's actually running so quick he is reeling in the three cars in front of him. Veneri Racing's 269, who is stopping on the left side of the track. Rico Ricardo, who is leading that respective pack, or the back end of the train, should say. Diego Vasquez also in front. He closed up by about 20 car lengths in that section on them. That's been the trouble spot I've noticed throughout the qualifying. Traffic, traffic, traffic.
Yeah, and traffic is coming up now as well in the last corner. Hopefully not going to be impeding Ethan Bass, as yeah, they have all cleared up nicely ahead of him, trying to prepare for their fastest lap here. Ethan Bass now coming over the line.
152.2. That bumps him up to 33rd overall in the session, a top 15 in the grouping, and it's curious, that is how you drive a Ford around the Nürburgring in 2022. Coming up to the final 90 seconds, checking in on the top driver in Division 2 once more, still top 3 overall. Delta V Racing's Martin Mayer has been flying this entire session. His slowest times have been in the 152s. He's hit the 151s 3 times.
Yeah, haters gonna say they are misplaced, but even though second place in the Division 2 is 13th place, which is a whopping 10 places behind, it is only 3.5 tenths that separates the Deutsche Payment Monkey Butt 287 and the 260 of Delta V Racing. We're on board right now, so the gap in places is big, but the gap in time is basically non-existent.
A bit of traffic to deal with for Delta V in these final stages. That is the Venere Racing 269 mentioned before. How big will tow be for this race today, do you think? We're already seeing that down the straights of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're very close to your competitor, it can most definitely make the difference going into turn 1, but in all reality, it's not going to play too much of a difference. It's on lap times itself, because of the 2 medium-long straights we have. It can give you about a 10th in pace, but apart from that qualifying increase lap time, Johann Martin Meyer heavily over the inside sausage curb there. Doesn't have time anymore for another lap, as the session is over, sadly, for Delta V Racing. They are gonna sit on that 3rd place time for now. But to conclude my point here, for the race itself, it's not gonna play too much of a difference. It's more a concern for your qualifying times.
It looks like Marsani also messing up that final chicane, also backing down. Here is one of the Division 1 teams for today. This is RL, trying to show what they can do. The Precision Racing Esports car, to be precise. Dominic Olivier, 151.6, gets them around top 15 overall in the session. E2 Racing has a chance to try and pip away the pole. We'll see if this lap counts, though, as they clipped all the sand there coming out of the corner.
Yeah, that might have been already too much for Riedmüller. What a feeling that must be. First pole of the season, and you're only separated by 4 1,000ths of a second from it.
One more chance. Looks like they'll try it. Will this lap count and get them the pole? No, it is 3 1,000ths of a second slower than their personal best. And so German Sim Racing stays at the top of the board. The other competitors with a chance. This is Ingersoll Rand GT3 Sprint 2. Ricardo Rico picking up some traffic from Daniel Hake to close out this session. This to try and bump his way from the top 5. Looks like he's going to just jump into the pit lane and nearly back into the 148. Most drivers are complete except for World of Sim Racing for this session. Looks like qualifying, in turn, just about come to a close for the first time this season, Stefan.
Yes, even the World of Sim Racing team, Diego Vasquez, is slow on track. I think we can most definitely call this qualifying session not only a good one, but also a very close one at the top of your boards for the Division 1 and overall pole.
Drivers now making their way to the pit lane, and they're 20 seconds before they get ready for the final warm-ups and preparation for the 1 hour and 55 minute race today. And in turn, your expectations for these drivers as the qualifying session now transfers over in the preparation for the race today.
Well, most definitely, nerves are gonna be high, Justin. It's the first race of the season. They have done this many of times, but still a very special occasion. Always is that first race of any league, and especially a league with such high stakes for the division winners.
Once again, the starting total today, 55 teams making their way out to the racetrack. They start their final warm-ups for today. 20 minutes currently in session, a mark of those warm-ups. Currently, they have, though, 5 minutes slotted out for that warm-up in the race briefing for today. So with these warm-ups in turn to finish up the preparations, what are you trying to adjust as a team driver or as a team as a whole, knowing you've got a few more minutes to make sure you have everything ready, your car's ready for race trim, be able to go rolling for today?
Well, if you're still gonna have to make adjustments to your car in the warm-up, you're most definitely not feeling comfortable whatsoever yet, and you're probably on your last desperate measures as well to make your car happy, to make yourself happy in that car, because you're gonna have to drive it for the next about 2 hours if you're a single driver for your team. So most definitely these guys are just looking to get that flow in, to get their mind ready and switch over from qualifying trim to race trim. Once again, feel exactly how this car is going to react on the high fuel load, the first few laps. How you're going to settle into it yourself is going to be very important now for the race start, because don't forget, if you're not 100% happy with how this car is handling right now, without having the pressure of the green flag dropping, and for the first time this season you have to go flat out every single time, you're most definitely gonna find yourself on the struggle train once we have that green flag flying for the Nürburgring route.
It's important to mention when it comes to the driver time requirements, you mentioned there that drivers are required to make a minimum stationary time of 60 seconds in this race, which they are stopped in the box via iRacing video timer. They also have a pit window where they must come in from an hour and 5 minutes to go to 45 minutes remaining. That start and end of the pit window will be announced for your race control. For that pit stop to be considered inside the window, they must have crossed the pit entry line during said window. So in other words, they have to keep that in mind for their strategy and make sure when they stop, they reach that total.
Yeah, most definitely. And it can sometimes happen that you slip up and miscalculate your times a little bit. Especially when I was still running in the first season of the IVRA GT Sprint Series, now powered by Heusinkveld. I have made that mistake myself, and we've got ourselves disqualified from a very good position because we messed up our calculations on when we have to stop and ran a little bit under that limit.
There are a few more penalties added to the penalty box as a result of some of the action seen during qualifying. Number 269 machine has picked up a penalty. That is the Veneri Racing machine. That has been picking up a penalty for a drive-through penalty for being towed outside their pit box and continuing in the qualifying session. There was also a Torres who had a spin, then a backup into the racing line, which impeded the 268 of JTR Esports. 134 car, for reference, is the Ingersoll Rand GT3 Sprint 1 car. Drive-through penalty today and a probation. Another drive-through for the 116, that is Pure Sims Esports. And an additional driver has picked up a probation and a drive-through, Alexander Davidson in car 227, slowing down on the line, leading to contact from Pure Sims Esports. They also have a drive-through. As mentioned, you have to make sure you are careful, especially in the qualifying. You're trying to warm things up. Your drivers got penalized for it.
Yeah, if I read this correctly, that actually means that the 116 has 2 drive-through penalties to serve for incidents 6 and 7. That is already a hefty toll you have to pay just because of 2 mistakes you have made in qualifying. So not the start they most definitely have to hope for going into the first race of the season.
Absolutely. And we already mentioned there were 2 other teams with 30-second stop and holds from the warm-ups. So a few teams already coming in on the back foot. Result of some of the penalties for today. Again, just past 5 minutes in this respective warm-up session. In the warm-ups right now, Team Fordzilla is currently the quickest Ingersoll Rand cars, their 2 and 1 sprint entries, currently second and third. RSR by Butt Kicker just been jumped by Delta V Racing for the top 5 in the session. And for those cheering on the Ford, just seen it there, currently in the mid-pack for today. Look at some of the final preparations here today. Who are some of your teams to watch for today?
Well, with the performance they have shown in qualifying, Delta V Racing, the 260, looking like a very strong contender for the overall win here today. Just, what was that, 2/100th of a second off in qualifying of the pole time. They most definitely look very, very great, but even down below in the ranks, RSR by Butt Kicker, they have 10th to 12th locked out with 3 cars, the 170 leading the 171 and 163 RSR by Butt Kicker cars. So look out for them trying to get that train going themselves and move through the field with their pack, overtaking people left, right, and center. But even the Division 2 battles can be very livid. We have iLivery's German Sim Racing Red, Team Steve Mello, very, very tight together, 16th and down. So we can look out for very great action throughout this field.
When you hear the indication on closing of the warm-up session here, it is worth noting one driver did not set a qualifying time. Will Racing, the only team who did not set one in the session. The warm-up session just been given the checker flag. Means it's time for the drivers to make their way towards the starting grid for today's 1 hour and 55-minute race. Let's take a look at how we start for today's action. It is German Sim Racing on the pole today with a 151.190. Maniti Racing starts in second. The top Division 2 team is Delta V Racing in third overall. Pablo Lopez driving the team for Heusinkveld in fourth. Carl Rico for Ingersoll Rand is in fifth. With the GSE Racing by ACI Car rounding out your top 6. Well, Esports is in seventh with the other team for Heusinkveld, driven by Tom Burns in eighth. Team Heusinkveld starts in ninth with Sean Campbell. It's for the Bees from the top 10 for RSR by Butt Kicker. His teammate Oscar Comper starts in 11th. You also have an additional RSR car inside the top 12 in 12th. Then you have Deutsche Payment Esports in 13th with Pure Sims Esports 14th. That's the Alexander Davidson car mentioned before. Precision Racing Esports 15th. iLivery's 5 Sports starts in 16th amongst your top spots. Already, all the drivers have made their way to the starting grid to be able to roll forward. As the green flag signal is given, drivers start to roll to prepare for today's action. The drivers did have the indication in the driving briefing for today that they are to line up during this formation lap at 100 kilometers per hour today. Drivers then double up before the final chicane. Green flag will be then given around the lights given around the start and finish line here at the Nürburgring. So the preparations in, Stefan, here on this formation lap.
Yeah, obviously make sure of your surroundings, make sure where you are on the track, and be prepared for that start. It is basically like you can see in any GT3 sprint series in real life, this starting formation. The green flag being given by the race controller if he is happy with how the cars have formed up. It's gonna be very, very interesting, if I'm honest, because it isn't so much about the raw power of the car itself, but much more about how can you jump that start yourself. Are you having good reactions? How is the leader gonna be performing as well? Because let's not forget, they are not in control of when the green flag flies.
Rest of your starters scoring on screen. As mentioned, 55 starters for today's action. It'll be interesting how today plays out to start off the season. Your keys to victory, especially when it comes to how today can play out with so many teams, so many drivers, and so many cars.
It's all gonna be about strategy. When are you gonna take that crucial pit stop? You have to make one at least. Is it going to be an early one? Is it going to be a late one? It all depends on how you feel in the car, how your teammate feels in the car if you have one. That is going to be the most important thing for these guys. Obviously, with 55 cars, we're also going to see a lot of traffic in the latter stages of this race. And so, traffic management can come into a big role as well. So, if you have a crew chief, he better be a good one at guiding you through that traffic, because it can cost you vital time in the dying moments of this race.
Drivers now getting to the double up formation line for the start procedure in the first race of the season. Drivers also now getting that command from race control. We get all set to go. There are some separations in the midst of the pack, keep in mind, around 26 overall on back. Drivers just about set to go. The green flag will be triggered after the disengagement. Casper de Gore, Courts, race control signal. It's time to go racing for the IVRA GT Sprint Series, powered by Heusinkveld for 2022-23. The green flag waves were underway from the Nürburgring. 3-4 wide already down the start and finish straight to make their way into turn 1. Contact with GSRE Racing by ACI. Several other cars able to make it through without spinning around, however. All the way to the grass they go.
No spinner!
And that's one of the Ingersoll Red cars into the middle of the pack. That's Ricardo Rico, who goes around to the heart of the pack.
From 5th place, falls all the way down outside of the top 30. Was a little bit of a messy start to begin with. Justin with the Maniti car totally sleeping on that start, and there's another hit. That's Vector by RSR.
That is the Vector by RSR car indeed, getting slammed into like a bowling pin. They're erasing their Ingersoll Rand's car that was involved in the first spin, was also in the vicinity. Also off the track, that is one of the Delta V cars, not their top car, the 260. That's the one from the heart of the pack who's gone around. Top 2 drivers in Division 1, meanwhile, staying 1-2 for now. Maniti Racing on the track, behind the German SimRacing.de by ACV car.
A little bit of a separation already happening here after the first lap. Max Riedmüller looking very racy against Massimo Locatelli of German SimRacing.de by ACV. Gap has opened up already a little bit. It's about, what is that, 1.5 to a second. That is between Maniti and Delta V Racing. Johan Martin Meyer really doesn't have too much concern of losing out to these guys, because remember, he is a Division 2 racer. He has nobody to fight with anywhere close, and that's also a car not anywhere close to the track.
That was from the top 12. Oscar Copper off the track for RSR by butt kicker. A crazy first lap in the heart of the pack. Meanwhile, for the drivers looking to move ahead, this is one of the Team Fordzilla cars, Tom Burns. Bit of a squeeze on the Deutsche Payment machine. It's in the battle for 6th position.
Niklas Schäfer still side by side with him there. It's 287 versus the 169, so not competing for division points here. These two guys have to be clever about this one to not lose too much time to the guys ahead. You can already see how that gap has opened up between Team Fordzilla and Niels May up ahead in the Audi. Finally, through the 4 chicane, Tom Burns makes the move stick.
Amongst the drivers with meatball flags to start off the race, mandatory repairs, Veneri Racing's 269, I Liveries, Vibe Sports Purple. Out with mandatory repairs, Vector by RSR with the Ingersoll Rand GT3 Sprint 2 car. Another send to the inside. Pablo Lopez, though, gets the switchback. The eSports car up for grabs as a result of the pass attempt, heading off towards turn 11 off the 12.
I might actually get now a run here. Niels May in that Audi RA GT3 Alessio Condensone. Not with the greatest drive through the Bilstein corner, but is good enough to defend against the Audi. Now even Team Fordzilla, Tom Burns already up behind these guys and makes that move stick. very nicely. Niels thinks better of that to go side by side. Here comes a send as well from Niklas Schäfer, and contact has been made.
A bold send, but able to make it through without disaster. Niels May, though, wants the speed back, trying to get some slipstream. The left side, here comes Dominic Olivier to join the party as well. He tries to follow both the lines. Now to the outside, May trying to make it stick for the overall lead. Maniti Racing trying to go around the outside. Max Riedmuller trying to make the move work. Tello trying to wrap around the edge of the curbing, has to give it up though. Coming out of the arena section, new race leader, Maniti Racing.
Yeah, well, Massimo Locatelli tried to do the up and under there, but it didn't work out as Maxi Müller had the very great drive through the exit out of the Mercedes arena. That Mercedes AMG GT3 looks very, very quick right now in the opening stages of the first round here.
Absolutely looking strong. Delta V Racing's 260 car is also in the draft still. The opening 3 spots overall on the racetrack, but that gap is closing with Pablo Lopez picking up some tempo by 3/10 last time by. So it becomes the question mark, how will this strategy fare out? The major thing too, the Division 2 leader has a massive buffer by about 4 seconds right now.
Yeah, Delta V Racing, the 260 most definitely have a lot of cards in their hands right now for that Division 2 lead. As you said, about 4.5 seconds between himself and second place of the Division 2 cars. So if Pablo Lopez is able to get up behind him and is faster as well, not due to mistakes, you might as well let him pass. Use that draft, use that car as well to have a fixed point in your lap times to maybe be able to get out that lasso, swing it around that rear wing, hook yourself to it, and just let yourself be dragged away from the rest of the pack. If that doesn't work, you're quickly gonna see yourself eaten up by the cars behind, and all of a sudden you're in the clutches of the 287 Deutsche Payment car.
Car you're looking at currently, by the way, is your top Division 3 driver, Strada Nomad should say. Currently with the solid buffer of their own, they just got passed by, you seen, by the Olympus Esports car. So far, solid cushion of about 4 seconds for their sake so far. Here we going.
Yeah, that was built on a good qualifying already. Once again, this pack is so close together that even just a 10th like they had on second place, oh no! Patrick Hickson.
There goes the Quasar Sim Racing car with a visit to the tire barrier, all the way off by a wide margin.
How did Patrick Hickson manage to get all the way out there? That is some long ways away from the track. Hopefully we're gonna see a replay to, unravel that mystery.
Now that is a surprise from the driver who was 23rd overall before the incident. Looking up towards the front, meanwhile, when the Audi is trying to set things up amidst the pack. That is GSE Racing by ACI still trying to make a way around Deutsche Payment. Here's a look at how the start played out. Mentioned Ricardo Rico wants those with mandatory repairs already as a result of that.
Cold tires right there for Ricardo Rico, and then the guys behind nowhere to go with him standing there in the ways. That most definitely was highly unlucky for everybody involved.
It wasn't over because guess what? See that air car in front? That was the car in front, the first one, and then bowling pins.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, not a good day for Ingersoll Rand to start off the season.
Oh wow, Kotovic himself got sent to the Shadow Realm. That was very, I think that was even Ricardo Rico that he collided with.
Meanwhile, what happened to the Delta V car? Well, you see the turnaround that was in the midst of turn 8. Seconds later, the RSR cars have this happen. Friendly fire.
Friendly fire indeed. I was hoping it wouldn't happen, but sadly, that is exactly what happened for the RSR car. So Rune Jansen also had that issue in his Porsche rather, and oh, he just got a love tap to the door.
5-star motorsport machine sent way adrift. Meanwhile, Rusty Spatulas looked okay to start, and then turn 1 happened. And then that.
Oh, that BMW is so unlucky. Tries to go all the way around these guys and still gets collected in the aftermath. And here is that incident with Hinks now. So what happened? Is it a Porsche behind? Oh, yeah, it is. My goodness.
Talk about overcorrection in the midst of the slide. That is, I don't think what he expected when he had the correction right.
That was just, like you said, overcorrection with that slide. Obviously, Ford corner also quite heavily banked on that left-hand turn, and that just made that snap even worse for Hinks there.
Crazy start to the race. Of note, V-Racers meatball flag in their 333. Just had to duck to the pit lane. Contact in the heart of the pack, meanwhile. German sim racing cars, that's their Division 2 entry. That's with Sean Campbell, a Division 1 driver. This is a battle with Division 2 drivers. He's trying to get around in the RSR by Bud Kicker car.
Little bit surprised that the RSR by butt kicker cars haven't been really able to go up the ranks. Wow, was late by Sean D. Campbell. Makes it stick though. I think gives the position back. Yeah, he's letting off the throttle to give that position back to Florian Höhn of the German Sim Racing Red car, the 246. That would have been messy to say the least if Höhn would have turned it.
Mean Emil Winbo, the driver that German Sim Racing Red is trying to battle with, or as Motorsports Apollo, has built up a 5-car length advantage because of that one send.
Yeah, it just shows you how much a yes, no, maybe no at all move can hurt your lap times, can hurt your gaps to cars in front. You really have to make overtakes count. You have to be 100% on it, or you're gonna lose even more time than you would normally. But this time around, good exit by Sean Campbell here for the RSR by butt kicker 170, though BMW just a little bit too fast for him on the straight line. Still does the descent into turn 1. The Yokohama hairpin side by side into the Mercedes arena.
Trying to make their way around the outside line to the arena. German Sim Racing Red car gives it up, but the 163 says thank you for the inside. And RSR zips on by. German Sim Racing Blue car next in this train. Then you have Strada Nomad's 256 car, also in the midst of this choo-choo train. That is for position in the Division 2 battle.
Yeah, seems like the RSR by butt kicker cars are done with taking in the local cuisine here. German Sim Racing Red has lost both positions there, and that is exactly that train I was telling you about earlier before we started this race. If they work together, these two RSR by butt kicker cars, they can make quick motions of all the cars ahead of them.
Moments ago, by the way, 2 penalties given out, 2 drive-through penalties, both the GTR esports cars in separate incidents, picking up penalties within a lap or so. 268 of Gregory Hobson has already served theirs. Then Spencer Retzma in the 345 just served one as well moments ago. Look at the battle. German Sim Racing cars unite in front. Strada Nomad car able to gain some time. This could become a 3-car battle for position 2. Vieri Racing's 204 is joining the picture behind them.
And you know, this is going to be interesting here. Florian Höhn versus his teammate Dennis Brissig. It's a 246 versus the 166. Höhn is on the back foot here a little bit, and Brissig much faster currently in that Division 1 car. So maybe we're gonna see a little bit of team orders played out here as Brissig is just being held up by his teammate in that GSR red car currently.
Just the patience game playing out. A little hole opened up for a moment. Backing it on up. Mentioned John Ellen has joined the back end of this train. That is also for position in the midst of this Division 2 fight that has started to break out. Part of their respective packs so far. So a bit of a tamer run now after the crazy start to the race. But keep in mind, things are very tight. There is lap traffic leaders, yes. For the most part, the field is grouped together by about 46 seconds.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised up ahead by Massimo Locatelli. The way Max Wiedenmüller looked behind the wheel of that Mercedes AMG at the start of this race. I thought he's gonna just drive away into the sunset once he passed the GSR car, but most definitely not doing that right now. So big applause here for Massimo Locatelli in the German SimRacing.de by ACV car, as he's keeping about half a second distance between himself and the leader.
Oh, and we have a penalty, and it involves one of the cars in this fight. The Seatbelt Esports car has just been given a drive-through penalty, as well as Pablo Lopez for Team Fordzilla and Alexander Davidson again for Pure Sims. As you may have noticed, on the start line, they jetted out before the line, so all three cars have been given drive-through penalties and probations for leaving the start column before the start line. So the 191 who's in this fight has to come in for a drive-through.
Yeah, and that is huge. Alessandro Canzone is going to have contact here with Tom Burns, Team Fordzilla. Yeah, that is most definitely going to ruin the race right now of Seatbelt Esports, but they have ruined it pretty much themselves. And as you said, the 116, another penalty for them. Third one is the jump, apparently, for that car.
The biggest one, though, is the driver in fourth place ahead of this train, Pablo Lopez, who does not appear to be happy. He is in that grouping ahead of them. So a top 5 car overall and top 3 in Division 1 have an appeal out. And be replaced by a fellow Fordzilla car on the pylon. So Tom Burns will now drive the flag for their respective team. The next driver in this train, which payment would be behind them once the drive-through served. Then you have Niels May for GSE Racing by ACI in the train.
Yeah, and that also shows you even former World Championship drivers can make mistakes like that.
Absolutely expecting the drive-throughs to come forward. Not taken by Pablo Lopez the past time by, or any of the others. They do have 3 laps to serve it in the sim, keep in mind. Or else the sim will to get the disqualification flag out. So far so solid for the most part outside of that grouping. When it comes to your top 2 drivers again, Maniti and German Sim Racing up at point. And things still falling towards the direction, it seems, of a couple of the drivers. Have to say, Deutsche Payment, very impressive this start. Up 6 as they start to bump the bang in the pack.
And those 2 RSR by Botcaker cars, they continue to be on a mission with... Oh no! That's right.
That's your Division 3 leader. Strata Nomad going off the circuit. And they just lost a decent amount of their cushion. They still have about a 5-second buffer, interestingly enough, for P1 Esport. But that does hurt their progression by a fair bit.
I'm just gonna guess with that tricky third turn, I might have just been a little bit too eager on the brakes. And a slow self-spin, that's always easy to recover. And Ryan Hamilton lucky to be still in the lead of that Division 3 cars. Yeah, there we go, right on the replays, just a little bit of a touch onto the tire bear to the inside, and off he goes again. But to make my point about the RSR by butt kicking cars? They are what seems like to be the only two cars apart from our first and second place car to be inside the 153 mark.
Oh, there it goes. Valorous Motorsports Apollo off the track, coming out of the chicane. Il Wimbo with a massive bubble across the curbing. One of the top drivers in Division 2 before the spin.
And I think Emil Wimbo here super lucky to not touch the tire barrier on the outside. Let's have a look. Yeah, just about managed to not touch it, it seems. So very, very lucky, but now down in 21st position. Nowhere close to being inside the top 3 of his class anymore.
A wild sequence right there. Take a look towards Sector 2. Precision Racing Esports machine, Dominic Olivier. With a solid start to this race. Up 7 spots from their initial qualifying slot. Passing Daniel Hake moments ago, now closing in on the 121 machine. Towards Precision Racing, the respective side of the community, very active in iRacing, to say the very least, on the sim side and on the league side, as we've seen. Olivier leading the charge, working with Jeremy Gonsalves today.
Yeah, most definitely one of the more active teams out there, racing pretty much anything they can get their hands on. And by the way, at the back of this pack, that's right, it's the 2 RSR by butt kicker cars already.
Trouble second place, the 127 for German Sim Racing, going off the circuit right now in the sand trap. From second overall, Massimo with a big mistake drops him out of the top 10.
Oh my goodness, what a difference that is gonna make. Might have just been the biggest mistake of Locatelli's career in this GT Sprint series powered by Heusinkveld, and indeed just drops it ever so slightly on the grass into the chicane, and around she went. Pablo Lopez serving his drive-through penalty right now. That's gonna take him a long time. And Massimo Locatelli, by the way, he is back in the queue once again, outside the top 10 in 11th place.
Not what you would want at this point. He did move to 10th overall with the drive-through, should say, yes. The next grouping back also involves German Sim Racing machine. So German Sim Racing now is 10th, 11th, and 12th overall on the racetrack. The car between them is a lap car for Ivory, for iLiveries.
And with those 2 mistakes, that also means that we now have 2 Division 2 cars inside the top 5 of this field. Deutsche Payment Monkey Butt, the 287, second place in the Division 2, has now moved up to second place with the drive-through of Pablo Lopez and the spin from Locatello.
Yeah, a big change of the complexion to this race, but that has to be absolutely huge if you're a Division 2 driver, to know you've got pace, be up there, but also be in position to take advantage of some of the attrition that's been going on, especially keeping themselves away from, say, part of the pack where Spelt Esports now has to be with the drive-through.
Yeah, most indeed. Niklas Schäfer especially loving this right now. He isn't even really being pressured by his 5th place GSE Racing by ACI as well. Just tagging along in behind is that Audi R8, so really going very nicely for these guys. 9 seconds above the gap is to first place, 5 seconds, 4.5 rather, the gap to Delta V Racing. Just taking it easy, taking it cool, keeping a look after their car and tires until it is their time to strike.
We are about 15 minutes or so away. Take should say more so 23 from the pit window in the early going of this event for those tuning in. For action for GT Sport Series powered by Heusinkveld. Hour and 55 minutes on the clock to start off the event today. Looking in through the arena section, a lot of these drivers with the drive-through penalties starting to get very aggressive. This is Eclipse Racing Team that is right in front of them. Pablo Lopez last time passed by Element Sim Racing Fire, and they look to want to go in fast. You see that with the exit there.
Yeah, most definitely getting held up here behind the slower cars of Eclipse Racing Team. Looks to the inside and gets it stick to the inside. Climber helps and is passed in an instant. Kitsune now up to 23rd.
Solid pass there. Next up for them, Jan Volmers up the circuit. Pablo Lopez, for reference, already has passed on buying. You may notice the car that Pablo Lopez in the 199 is battling with is a Ford. Yes, the only Ford in the field is now getting dived by. Ethan Bass giving space to the fellow Fordzilla car up the circuit. Let's respect train. Seen some good respect given to those even with the drive-thrus who are making solid time back up.
Yeah, Pablo Lopez now inside the top 20 once again, but how much time he has lost is incredible. 20 seconds just on that long drive-through. He has lost to the position where he wanted to, and here goes Canzone now to the inside of the next car in behind. Maybe a move as well from the Delta V Racing. No, that's not going to be happening. Canzone now to the outside. That should be an easy move to the Porsche.
That is not for class position. Keep in mind, look at the back. Delta V Racing just dived right around and couldn't get around Eclipse Racing Team. Chris Chatterton holding on. Black flag, a drive-through penalty, and the day gets worse for Pastrana Nomad. He won Esport Orange, who is second in Division 3 as well, also just given a drive-through.
Yeah, for failing to keep speed with the field. Now that's something I haven't read in quite some time.
Yep.
Very interesting penalty to pick up.
Remember, 25th on back, 25th on forward had a massive cushion. 26 was then underthrown by a couple seconds. Then in the back half of the field, so there was a massive spread at the back.
Yeah, that probably is the reason why we have those penalties now. And also, by the way, Alessio Canzone, as you saw on your screens, now passed the Ford of Ethan Bass. And Ethan Bass seems to get a little bit swallowed now. Jan W. Volmers is
look
now
at that.
on the back.
Right in the back of the group. What in the world?
And across the track as well.
Delta V Racing's Frederick Pochez getting involved there and collected as a result of the contact with Eclipse Racing Team. What in the world happened there? What can you say?
What can you say except nothing for all of that? Just a bad mistake from Chris Chatterton. Yeah, I don't know. Both cars made mistakes, but Chatterton's so much slower than Porsches, and most definitely one out of the weird category.
Yeah, that was, it looked like an off-track. By the way, here's way forwards, TJ Young, tech issue. The 215 now scrambling out of the race for the time being. Give credit, though, to the 16th place overall driver last time by Thomas Cope's 164 car. It's now in a solid position in the Division 1 class. Thomas Cope battling with Mag Performance SRT currently. For those who have watched some of the other series on the sim, Thomas Cope trying to utilize his skills in multiple different types of cars. Actually broke through in stock cars, believe it or not, in one of the series this season.
Yeah, doing a very great job. Started 33rd as well. Olympus Esports up to 16th, maybe 15th now with that move. Oh, loses to rear.
Oh! Thomas Cope, too strong, loses the spot to make Performance SRT. Now they have damage. That also opens up the door for a Division 2 battle. Jason Dilworth, left side, has the toe. Racing, tries to get it back with the cross-up. The other groove trying to take the tighter line in turn 1. Can't make it work. Here comes Andrei Rechkovic, who has had a quiet one so far to join the fray.
Definitely couldn't cope with that overtake attempt, but yeah, seems to have held that position now to Jason Dilworth, and behind us we have more overtaking moves by John Elan for 15th place. I think that is. No, that was actually him defending 16th place over the Heusinkveld car.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, give and take continues in the case of the Ford. I'd say that Ford's got some solid track position. Say 22nd Ethan Bass. That was for position though. He has Fowers Motorsports Aries also closing in. I know we give a lot of love and a lot of showcase to the Ford, but the fans also like to see the underdog cars, so to speak, perform. This is one of the oldest cars on the sim that is holding its own in the mid-pack.
Yeah, well, technically we do have 2 underdog cars because we also only have a single Audi in this race, which is driven by Niels May in 5th place.
Meanwhile, still keep an eye on how things fare out with Olympus Esports and their charge forward. This has been an intriguing train, though. You have Olympus now trying to hold off 3 Division 2 drivers as a result of that contact from before. Thomas Koch dealing with left rear damage to the bumper as they nearly knocked the baller down.
And at the back of this train as well, we have another RSR by Bart Kicker car. By the way, that's the 171 of Oscar T. Cooper, who we did see have a little bit of problems earlier in this race. So that's why he is actually not in this group per se, because he is 3 laps down on these guys. So just hanging back and, yeah, seeing what might come for him still. But as we are on the topic of the RSR cars, Sean Campbell, up to 7th place now. He has been able to really move through this pack that has now split up, that was for 4th place, led by Niklas Schäfer. His teammate, though, Alex Jöringer, really hasn't been able to be on the same track anymore. He is still in 10th place at the back of that train and not able to get anywhere close to the cars ahead of him.
Yeah, that has been a major thing throughout this race so far. You see Niels May trying to take a little bit of a poke, doesn't get the full run. Sean Campbell, by the way, after his struggles early, back in the fray. Behind them, Sim Racing by ACV, picking up lost ground. Make some moves as they go for the choo-choo train.
Yeah, Locatello and sorry about that. We're actually switching positions back and forth through 2-3 turns, as you were able to see on the tower. As that's Jöringer now going to the inside of Hake, so the team Heusinkveld car most definitely on the back foot now after that overtake from Locatello.
Well, 43 estimated laps to go, coming to 42. Hey, trying to give some give and take, trying to get the cross attempt. There we go. Able to hold on for the time being, though, as they make their way towards 5, 6 through to 7, the Ford curb, and they hit each other.
Whoa.
Hey, now bullying his way ahead. Now he boys his way up to a spot. That's not going to be a popular move from the RSR camp.
My goodness, that love tap on the right rear corner panel could have been quite the complication for Jöringer. So great job on Alex's part to keep that car under control.
What a fight in the midst of this top 9 now as a result of this. By the way, Tello has ran away by about a couple seconds from all the shuffling and the bumping and the banging we just seen. Don't think it's over, though. Getting a solid run. About dead even, though, down the straightaway with Hake so far. Behind them, by the way, you see the give and take with lap traffic that breaks up that respective path.
Very great to see now on the onboard with Heusinkveld riding on board that 163 RSR by butt kick. You can see how much he has to work on the wheel to keep that car under check. Porsche always loves to rotate with that rear mid-engine car that the 911 GT3R has to offer.
Really good view. You can see how different the lines are being taken. You have a wider arc from Hake right now compared to Heusinkveld, who is essentially charging the corners.
Yeah, most definitely. And it always depends on your own driving style, which is faster. You can't just go and say, aha, that's the fastest guy. He drives that line. I'm going to drive that line as well. It just doesn't work like that in the Mercedes arena. It is such a flowing section of this track that you need to find your own working line. It can most definitely differ quite heavily from what others are driving, like we have seen here in the perfect example between the 148 and the 163.
Been so intriguing to see how things have played out. You have Heusinkveld, who's done solid in the 153 time bracket. But RSR always seems to come to play when it comes to these types of series, especially when it comes to IVRA. We've seen them in contention with their drivers, including in this field today, in several different series championships over the past couple of years.
Yeah, most definitely. The IVRA GT Sprint Series by Heusinkveld has brought out some great talent into these GT3 cars, and yeah, I think we can say this quite nicely. We have seen some very great racing throughout its existence.
Absolutely. It brings some intriguing moments, absolutely. We've already seen the intriguiness today. But keep in mind, a lot of veterans making their way forward through these competitions we've seen throughout these campaigns. Still no move yet coming from Heusinkveld as he tries another move. He's trying it.
Always so much like he's trying a move, but it's just the different lines of these two. No real attempt from Heusinkveld, but maybe if he just gets a good launch out of that Yokohama hairpin, he might have a good shout at that turn 2 because of the line of the 148 ahead of him.
Yeah. That's the intriguing part of this. Different lines have played up. By the way, ours are by butt kickers. Sean Campbell, who is amongst those who was in the championship battle in the major series earlier this year, also closed into these two. See racing by ACI with Niels May, trying to get around the Division 2 driver of Deutsche Payments. It was Paper. Just continuing to be patient. Is this part of the strategy or waiting for the windows such as that one to open? I think that answered itself.
Yeah, Niels May has started to put on the pressure to Nicolas Schäfer because of the charging Sean Campbell, as we might actually see something here into the chicane. No, thinks better of it on that Audi. Good choice by Sean to not go for something right there. Just putting on the pressure on the exit as well. Tries to square up the last turn now, and Nicolas Schäfer gets himself a little bit of breathing room as well. It might look like that 287 up ahead of these two cars is starting to fall down on pace, but it actually, Nicolas Schäfer is doing faster and fast lap. 52.470, his fastest lap thus far. Didn't count because of an off track, so a 52.523 right now stands to his name, which is about the same pace as Niels May has been doing throughout this race. So in all reality, these guys are so close together just because of Sean Campbell charging his way into maybe the top 4 very soon.
Top 3 in the Division 1 class as well. Don't forget, Olivier is closing even quicker back into this train as a result of the tempo and the patience mark And this comes up to the strategy, right? We mentioned the pit window mandatory for this event today. Is that a bit into the mind maybe of some of the drivers to save that little bit? Or no?
Yeah, well, if you're right now in the car of Sean Campbell, let's take him as a very good example. If you don't get by fast of the guys ahead, you might as well take an early pit stop to just get rid of these guys. If you're lucky, you even get into clean air, and all of a sudden you can lap yourself past these guys until they pit, and you don't have to worry about overtaking them. But on the other hand, obviously, Niels May, he is fighting against Niklas Schäfer, but he seems to be slowly starting to get held up by the 287 up ahead of him. So you might also have to think, do I want to have that undercut? Do I want to take it myself? Because obviously I'm not going to get past Niklas Schäfer anytime soon, because I have been stuck behind him, well, basically since lap 1. But at the same time, you're gonna take yourself out of this fight, which means Sean Campbell could all of a sudden make quick moves himself of the 287, get rid of him, start lapping much faster than you are, and all of a sudden you're not finding yourself anymore inside the top 3 of Division 1. So I don't want to be a crew chief right now for these guys, because those are some very, very, very important decisions to make.
And that's where that preparation comes into play we talked about. We mentioned in the warm-up, if you didn't have that, even the setup dialed in by your warm-up, you'd be in trouble. So in fact or theory, you have to think that preparation for the strategy has to be in that conversation.
Yeah, most definitely. If you're not having at least a plan A and a plan B already in preparation, then you're most definitely going a little bit blind into these kind of races. You don't want to make strategy calls on the spot, because obviously a racer mind is most different from a engineer mind, and you want to have that engineer mind at hand once you're making those decisions. Obviously sometimes on hand or spot decisions have to be made in certain occasions. But right now, if you are on plan A, I think Campbell and his team are thinking about switching to that plan B.
Keep an eye on that. By the way, keep an eye on the pylon. You may have noticed Division 3, as a result of first and second place getting drive-thrus, now within 0.3 of a second. Alex Ferrari for Meg Performance Junior White, now with a small margin leading over Nick McLaughlin for Precision Racing Esports. McLaughlin, his expertise to fawn, his sports cars. He is a champion in Precision Racing's leagues for a reason.
Yeah, most definitely. And it is going to be interesting what McLaughlin can do here versus Ferrari in that Porsche up ahead of him. Mag Performance Junior White. They are in 29th and 30th overall, by the way. So even though they might be Division 3, they are still quite far up the road from everybody else.
The interesting thing is, too, remember Rusty Spatulas in that contact mentioned before? Well, they have a car in this train 2 and 3rd. And a Häkkinen, watching, they had recently gotten passed by some of the Division 2 drivers. Reference marks in terms of how their pace is going.
I think that might even be that Rusty Spatula car that got that contact.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, they're the only Rusty Spatulas. Yeah, so Henna Häkkinen is that car, and yeah, doing a good recovery drive. Started themselves 46th overall as well, so gained, what is that, 14 positions in the last 47.5 minutes. So very great drive by the Rusty Spatulas and Häkkinen.
Top and hole just awarded for 30 seconds. Marcus Silva should say, that involving 333, the racer who had spun moments ago. Keeping an eye on Rusty Spatulas. Big contact nearly. Wazart Sim Racing Hydra is holding up the whole train, trying to hold on to Delta V Racing. for 28th overall.
Yeah, Porsche is making sure that he gets his notion known to Patrick Hingston. Hingston, also one of the cars that has seen quite some contact already. My goodness, what a move by Porsche. Not scaring Patrick Hingston whatsoever, though, in that Quasar Sim Racing Hydro car.
Oh, now that is World of Sim Racing team, who is a Division 3 car, but laps down. And there's a buffer now for Ferrari. Hakkinen now having a fight with McLaughlin behind the lap car, side by side for second in Division 3. McLaughlin trying to lick the stamp. Now the orange and black machine taking a wide arc, gives up the spot back to second. Now they have to find a way around the 351, who is a lap down to the field. Oh, and they hit him for good measure.
There we go. Now they're both past that World of Sim Racing team. Good move there from Antonio Barrett to go all the way to the outside and let them pass. Up ahead, though, a little bit of a move from Frederick Porsche once again on the Quasar Sim Racing Hydro car. So that battle is most definitely on for 28th overall.
These are amongst the Division 2 drivers who are fighting very aggressively. This time, Butch is trying to go for the longer roll, braked all the way to the apex, all the way to the bumper on the acceleration again. They make their way to Michael Schumacher's. Delta V Racing's 284 had gone around with a spin on the opening lap, remember. After qualifying top 15, They hit him again.
Some very strange moves by Porsche. They're out of the draft every now and then when he gets close to Hingston. I don't know what he's trying to do with these very aggressive jolts to one side. Most definitely unsettling his own car going into braking zones. Not the best ideas, and that's why he has hit the 225 multiple occasions already through turns.
You can already hear the driver argument in the head there, saying, I'm quicker in the apex. The feeling of holding up. Here's the tough thing. Some will say it's the job to make the pass. Poches trying to go again, nearly hit him again. Now they hit behind him in the check-up effect. Ferrari hit by McLaughlin.
And while all of that is going on, the 333, the 333 car. Oh, there's the move now from Porsche to the inside.
They hit, they slide, they crash the Division 3 leader Ferrari. McLaughlin turns around a car. Hakkinen gets through clean. The World of Sim Racing team crashes. You could see that coming, but that just exploded the entire Division 3 lead.
My goodness, what a way to end the great battle. And I think that now puts the Rusty Spatulas into the Division 3 lead.
Oh, an air spin for V Racing.
Oh, no.
An air spin for the Delta V car, should say. They have a problem with the damage now. Mandatory repairs. World of Sim Racing team also picking up mandatory repairs. This just got ugly for Division 3.
Yeah. Very unlucky for the Hydra car right there. Just a subtle touch completely unlodges the precision car, sorry, the Delta V car rather, the 284. And yeah, guys behind just nowhere to go as well. Highly unlucky for everybody involved that was down the line. By the way though, Justin, pit window is officially open.
Funnily enough, it went open as they were spinning in the grass. To add the insult to injury with the way that played out. By the way, Sean Campbell not able to find a way around the 287 yet. Niels May has done that. Remember, he mentioned thought of going quicker once they find their way around the 287. Buffer already half a second for the Yanni.
Yeah, look who's behind, stalking in the shadows though. That's right, it's the German SimRacing.de by ACV car, the 127 of Massimo Locatelli, 5/10 per lap faster on average than the group up ahead. So they most definitely have to get past Schaefer quickly or Massimo Locatelli might just make quick moves of themselves. And what I wanted to say, once as they were crashing the 333 car of Marco Silva, he himself has gotten a 30-second stop and hold penalty, and to the inside, I think that was, yeah, that's still Porsche's making his way into the pit lane now.
It's so penalties racking up in this one. We'll see what race control says involving previous trouble spots, because there are 2 reviews underway. Behind them, for the send again. Coming from Campbell. Campbell trying to run away from the 127 who is on the charge.
Oh.
Another peek from Campbell in the arena section to the curb in the grass.
Another one of those yes, no, maybe moves from Sean Campbell. You have to be careful about them. They can lead to quite some carnage. Just last lap, by the way, Niels May already 5/10 faster than Schaefer, a 52.2 versus a 52.9, and Locatelli himself also 5/10 faster, sorry 7/10 faster rather, if I can count my maths correctly. So they are losing so much time. Ours are by Bud Kaker at 170 behind Niklas Schaefer. He is starting to now really hurt with his pace being under pressure so heavily.
See when these drivers come in, keep in mind the lighter the car, the faster it can go in theory. That's why we might expect to see drivers push this window as far as possible. By the way, Maniti Racing currently in the lead by 11 seconds, make it 12 already, has been turning 152 flats the past 5 laps. Pace set by these drivers on screen, 152 twos to 153 flats.
And right there you were able to see it. Sean Campbell, he wanted to square up the exit, but got a little bit too tight in the last corner, hit the curb and unsettled his car ever so slightly, giving back the momentum to Niklas Schaefer. Could have had a chance otherwise on maybe trying something into turn 1, but just Niklas Schaefer is still consistent, though he has the problems of the pressure being mounted on himself. Last lap once again recovered to a 52.278, which is just 2/10 slower than Niklas May, and same time as Massimo Locatelli behind him.
Drive-through penalty given to car 225, that is the Quasar Sim Racing Hydra car. They have received a penalty from that previous sequence talked about. Also is another penalty in the wings coming up, involving the 284 Delta V Racing car.
Insult to injury for these guys, a 60-second stop and hold penalty for continuing to drive with a damaged car and then making contact as well with another competitor. So really unlucky day for these guys. First the contact, and then they have that stop and hold penalty as well. So probably the day done for these guys.
Penalty has been given in sim, and that contact in turn really impacted these two. The damage now for Nick McLaughlin, significant on the front end as the Division 3 leader. Still holding on to it though over Rusty Spatulas. The next nearest car is another driver who is recovering from a penalty with a clean car in Hamilton. So Division 3 may get very, very crazy for this division lead in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, indeed. I think we have missed that overtake because Rusty Spatulas was at one point ahead of the Precision Racing team, if I remember correctly. But either way, McLaughlin versus Häkkinen. As you said, this is gonna get very, very interesting, especially with when are they going to switch drivers. Häkkinen has one driver waiting for him, and I think Nick McLaughlin actually might be a car that is just a single driver, as we had a spin for Pablo Lopez.
Pablo Lopez's efforts continue to spiral, 13th in Division 1. That will cost him some of the time he had been gaining back up. Here's a look why. Oh, it had some help.
Contact.
That was one of the Team Heusinkveld cars he got into.
Oh, Rusty Spatulas into pit lane. They go to 3-1-3, making their mandatory pit stop.
Remember, drivers have to be in the pit lane for 60 seconds per rule on the sim side. So the 60-second stop underway for Rusty Spatulas. They have already taken their driver out. They have 2 different options available to their choosing. With respect, drivers, again, Zoakasu has jumped in. Mika Taka is working on the box today as we take a look again at the train for 5th overall.
As Maxim Müller makes his way into turn 1 once again, 11.5 seconds his lead has grown to over Tom Burns. What is it going to be? He hasn't been this close for a very long time now, Sean Campbell. Can he make a move?
He wants to make it, showing the nose. He gets the nose alongside, but again, no dice. Deutsche Bank machine, the Deutsche payment machine should say, able to hold on as there's the cross attempt. Campbell again with another poke in the same section. This time forces a mistake.
Yeah, but Sean Campbell just doesn't have the grip out of turn, so that's a mistake now from him. Massimo Locatelli gonna look to his right side, which is gonna be the outside for the first part of the 4th corner.
Campbell holds it off for the time being, though, with the preferred line. Note 5-Star Motorsport has taken their pit stop as well as part of Division 1. About 11 minutes to go in the pit window for the opening round of the season here at the Nürburgring. Tello trying to line it up as the good line. Might be able to try and get something to go. Another drive-through just issued to Aguero Racing, 312. As well as the 248 Team Heusinkveld. That car, one of the higher up runners in Division 2 mentioned, top 6.
Yeah, that was the incident we saw with Pablo Lopez. A quick decision there on the race stewards on that contact. And the 312, by the way, did not satisfy the minimum pit stop time. So first pit box for them as the 312. Oh, Massimo Locatelli behind!
Contact for position, another spin. What in the world just happened there? Did they just try and pit across the curbing?
Massimo Locatelli with a massive mistake. What in the world were they thinking right there? That's one way to throw away a race for sure.
Yeah, there's curbing there. Yeah, that's not gonna work. And yeah, it definitely hasn't worked out for them. Back to 11th they go. Sean Campbell, by the way, able to jump ahead as a result of the bumping and banging in front of all that. Again, you need to commit comfortably for the pit lane. They committed quick. Now it's going to be interesting how the counter is after seeing that as the traffic moves away. Pit stops completed. RSR by Butt Kicker has put in a lemon in one of their cars. Ryan Hamilton, Division 3, just hit. 166 just came in as well moments ago.
So, Sean D. Campbell finally passed Niklas Schäfer. This now begs the question, how can he respond to the pace of the GSE Racing by ACI Niels Mai up in 4th place? 3rd place in class, that is, if you want to count divisions. There we go, Niklas Schäfer into pit lane, so the leader of Division 2 is seeking for reliefment from his teammate.
Dutsby still up ahead in that division, should say, but they nearly made the same mistake that was just made a lap ago. Sportzilla car also in for Tom Burns. So Burns now into their respective stall. He is on his own today, such as Pablo Lopez. Speaking on their own, DT Racing, he dominating by 14 seconds. Check that, 16, as pit party time for much of the field. Even with a couple in their own stalls at the same time. Checking back in with Alec Torres in the Ingersoll Rand car. 7th in Division 1 currently. Very, very rough day. As the Orbit Motorsport Venus machine, the Ford in the field, trying to give a bit of a battle as hard as they might.
And by the way, in case you were wondering, that Ford GT, how old is it really? Well, let's just put it like this. When that Ford GT GT3 would have raced in the GT3 series, which I think back then would have still been the Fiat GT3 championship, those GT3 cars were still stick shifted. So they have a semi-automatic stick shifter still in that car and not flatted pedals. That's how old that is.
Mini-T Racing, meanwhile, in. Segue from that point. Mini-T has been outright dominant today, Stefan. Since the issue with German Sim Racing, they ran away. And ran away, I mean by 3/10 a lap ran away.
Yeah. And the incredible thing about that is they were the only car in the end lapping below the 152 mark consistently. As long as they didn't encounter traffic, Max Riedmüller was lapping at the 151.7 to 151.8 mark. That's how fast that Mini-T Racing car is right now. And they did open up the gap to 12.5 seconds when they crossed the finish line the last time around.
They continue to take their service. Delta V Racing, for their own sake, has dominated their respective class today. In Division 2, in the pit stall right behind them, Johan Martin Mayer capitalizing on a strong qualifying session. They're both up on the jack for the tires. And so Supermax, waiting an extra couple seconds to be sure, off and away goes Mini-T.
Yeah, Riedmüller and Mini-T Racing must be extremely happy how this race has gone for them. Their biggest competitor, 2 massive mistakes in their hands, lodging them just basically clear of everything else. If they ever run into a little bit of traffic problems, they just can take their time, relax, have a tea, sit back, and weigh their choices when they want to make those passes happen.
Meanwhile, case of this pack. Swirl Team Heusinkveld cars trying to battle around. This is the grouping for 12th position on the racetrack, taking a look towards the 148 machine. Yes, that is Nick Madsen and the Make Performance SRT machine. That's in Division 1 for them. Hence the blue compared to the green. We have a German Sim Racing blue car in the train.
Madsen.
Make Performance, Madsen. Madsen early all over the track. That puts him up for grabs.
Great save though by the Mac Performance SRT car. Now goes past, I think it was Bayret. Yeah, it was Bayret of the World Sim Racing team, the 351. And my goodness, that could have been quite a hairy moment as well for Madsen.
Do have damage, keep in mind, that they are dealing with in the midst of all this. See how that impacts them the rest of the way. A bit of the right front damage compared to some of the scraping seen for the 166 a couple of times. Meanwhile, second place Division 2 goes around.
Yeah, that's Marius Holitikas, the teammate of Schäfer, first lap out, or second lap out I should say, and immediately big mistake from the 287. Maybe feels a little bit of the pressure being in second place that high up in the field.
It'll cost him some significant amount of time. They still have a 4-second buffer over the Division 2 German sim racing car. The marker will be more so towards Valorous Motorsport. Nethersen from the 166. Now they go for the crossover. As Brezik trying the high side to get around. Doesn't poke around enough.
And once again, immediately the gap opens up to the 148 of Philip Klinger of the team Heusinkveld car up ahead. So really have to be careful once again, not to lose too much time, because it can hurt your progress a little bit over the next few minutes.
Pit window a couple minutes away from closing, but just about every car has come into the pit lane. In fact, all have now, with Cooper being the final of those drivers after his repairs. Pit lane has seen its first pit window now come to a close unofficially. Official word in 2 minutes' time. Maniti Racing cycling back to the front over Team Ford Zoa, 13-second buffer. Delta V Racing leads Division 2 second overall, 12 seconds back. More drive-through penalties, though, for the pit stops just given amongst them. Element Sim Racing Water. 372 Marcus Fox on his own penalty. The 120 car, Mag Performance SRT, who is in this fight. Drive-through penalty. The 163 RSR by Butt Kicker car with Mikael Lemon behind the wheel now. It's a drive-through as well.
Isn't the 372 that's Element Sim Racing Water? I think they're even the leaders currently of the Division 3. No,
they're second in the division, but not going to be any more. So they are going to have to deal with the penalty. The reason being they had a 5-second quicker pit stop compared to the rest of the field in the case 372.
One thing I find highly intriguing is that Rusty Spatulas, remember, they were nose to tail with Precision Racing Esports. They have lost significant amount of time to the 311. They are now, what is that, 14 seconds off the back of the 311. So wonder what happened with those guys. Now sitting in 34th overall, being pressured by Olympus Esports, which is a Division 2 car.
Based on what we've seen, though, throughout the race, as we take a look at Rusty Spatulas there, giving up the spot to Olympus Esports there. A lot of the drivers higher up in the order now for some of these classes did so on the overcut compared to the undercut strategy. Element Sim Racing coming in for the drive-through penalty, so that will psych them away from second. But the undercut has seemed to be very powerful today. Or overcut, should say.
Yeah, most definitely that overcut is very powerful. Didn't expect that, if I'm honest. But maybe it just has to do with the teams just getting that better track position then, instead of the guys who did undercut being held up maybe a little bit off traffic. Obviously, didn't see too much of the cars who did the undercuts, so can't judge 100% from that. But most definitely seems that way. And I had a quick look at the lap times and telemetry from the 313 Rusty Specialist. I don't see anything that would raise my eyebrow as to why they have lost so much time in just 3 laps time to your leaders that are Precision Racing Esports in that class.
No penalty served yet by the Blue Machine, Madsen. Keep in mind, we mentioned it before, 3 laps to be able to serve the drive-through, so this will cost the 120 a top 10 position overall. They're still battling like they don't realize there's the penalty yet. We've seen how long the drive-thrus today have been. 23 seconds is the length of the drive-through penalty, so that would cycle them a fair bit back all the way to around 20th or so. So at this mark of the race, already past the halfway point, what's the game plan for you, or rather what's on your mind as a driver at this point, knowing how this is cycled about having the natural progression of the race, it seems, today.
Yeah, well, if you're one of the top cars right now, speaking here inside the top 7, top 6, where you see some significant time gaps, you're just there thinking lap to lap. You have to hit your points, you have to hit your marks, turn-ins, whatever it is, you just have to continue to cycle through that. As we see a pass here for position. Ooh, that was a close call between those two.
What is Madsen doing? He tries to block off the spot. He has to give up this spot regardless. There's the drive-through penalty.
Wow,
Same goes for 7th overall. Yeah, very aggressive when they have a drive-through.
Aggressive on the blocking, aggressive even on the drive into pit lane. Nearly did a Locatello there, as he also nearly lost his car to the outside, driving over the curb. As another pass, no, that's Di Natale, as there's a contact.
And that was not going to stick. Where's Holy Tykes for Deutsche Payment going around? And that's your second in Division 2 car, losing even more time. They're pushing for the spots. Well, just about entirely gone now.
Yeah, and it was another mistake by Locatello. Once he made that first mistake, they just continue to go on coming. This time, too, for the first time, he had a victim as well with him. So, yeah, it's very, very sad moments there for Marius Holy Tykes and Deutsche Payment. Nothing they can do about that, just GermanSimRacing.de by ACV car losing it on the inside on the brakes, and they have to pay for that mistake.
Madsen, by the way, cycled to 19th position with the drive-through, but he did pick up a few tenths of a second for position on the RSR by Kicker 163. So this is battle for position in Division 1 now forming up between these two. Madsen has a bit of a run now in the red and black machine. Oh, and now there's a big chance he opens the door.
Wow, that was a very quick move there by Nick Madsen. Didn't expect that. Probably Limon himself didn't expect that as well. Going on the normal racing line, not defending whatsoever to the 120.
Madsen, a major send through the chicane, gains a little bit of time. And in turn loses some ground on the racetrack. Oh, an interesting situation. The 127 just hit for an extra stop 4 laps in. Locatelli has come back into the pit lane.
Yeah, you know what? Looking at that car, it might actually have some damage, as that doesn't look straight anymore the way that 127 drives.
Contact we referred to moments ago. Those wondering, he was the car who slid on in for the shunt.
And Locatello has stepped out of the car as well, so that might be the day done for the 127. It was a very hard hit to the left rear of himself. That's the only point of contact he made with the Deutsche Payment car.
Indeed, the Deutsche Payment car, for reference, is 16th overall on the track. Still keeping an eye, meanwhile, on this battle for 17th. This is 5 seconds back of that still.
Actually now lost the position as well to Pablo Lopez, as I saw out the corner of my eye in the standings. So seems like even Marius Holy Tykes is suffering after that contact with the GSR car.
Taking its calm progression for the time being, amongst your biggest moving teams of the day. Worth noting, 2 teams have moved up 25 spots, both Division 2 teams. Olympus Esports in 242 moved up 25 spots. Swank Racing has moved up from 53rd starting spot in 288 to 29. And a drive-through penalty given to the 127 for insult to injury as a result of that incident. But they, as mentioned, are already in the lane.
Yeah, of note as well in the top movers category, Olympus Esports, the 164. Haven't seen Thomas Cope many times on our screens, but most definitely has done a very great day. Up 23 spots from 33rd into 10th place. So a very great afternoon for Thomas Cope at Olympus Esports.
A day indeed for Olympus Esports. Their cars have been very quick in race trim. Thomas Cope, we talked about his expectations in terms of as a driver today, one of their top drivers for the outfit. Trying to break away from the Division 2 driver behind them in Dilworth, who is driving on his own today. The Olympus Esports team in their outfit has been improving vastly, though, you have to say, throughout the campaign. When you think about it, of 2022, I mean. Coming up to 20 estimated laps to go, coming around to 19 next time by. He's taking some nice calm moments compared to before. Speaking of battling, though, this is 7th overall. In Heusinkveld, Urban Sim Racing blue car is now waving the flag for the team.
Yeah, blue and red both are not too far away from each other as well, so 5 seconds gap between the two best German sim racing cars. Blue leading red, the 166 leading the 246. And Bracek, also a very quiet day at the office thus far, has made up a considerable amount of positions as well. Started in 23rd place himself into that 8th place, looking inside the top 7 maybe as well. So the 166 most definitely making up for the mistakes of their sister car.
Yeah, they have been so far. They've had some strong consistency in terms of their laps as a whole. 152 mark over the past 10 laps as well. Looking for a chance to try and find a way around Philip Klinger, the driver in front. Not able to close up quite yet, so this may take some time if they want to make this move. Make it quickly with 35 minutes left on the clock. And already the cars in front pulling off and away by 7 seconds.
Yeah, car ahead is the Precision Racing Team Esports. In that 6th place, also made up 9 positions by the way, as there might be a move here into turn 1, BMW M4 very close, and there we go, to the inside.
Looking and showing the nose, does it stick this time? No contact, nearly turned themselves across, or gave some giveaway. The German Sim Racing blue car moves up to the top 7 as a result of that move through turn 1 to the arena section.
That was a very, very good overtake. Very good and very clean from Bracek. If you open up the book for how to overtake 101, you open up page 71, you're gonna see that overtake right there in that book. Picture perfect, given the space, given the momentum, and Bracek takes all that he can, moves himself up into that 7th place.
Take a look, meanwhile, at what's going on 2nd overall. What Delta V's done today as the Division 2 team has been very impressive, you have to say. They've been consistently holding onto the spot in front of Team Forzo much of this run. They've had a swap around once, yes, for the pit stops. But after the stops, they reverted back in this direction on lap overcut. Delta V Racing definitely having to open up some eyes as they open up the bottom for Fordzilla.
Yeah, Tom Burns was putting on so much pressure. Good decision by Johan Mattemeier to just give up that position, or does he? Yes, he actually tries to take up all the draft he can versus Tom Burns. A little bit of miscommunication on both parties as they move to one side at the same time. No harm and no foul though of Tom Burns right there. And one thing I wanted to talk about is the two cars in behind, Niels May and Sean Campbell. We have seen them pass the Deutsche Payment car, make their pit stops, and ever since, Sean Campbell hasn't found the same pace he had earlier in this race. He's now doing 52 highs all around, while... Oh, who is that on the outside? That was a green Porsche on the outside. I think that was Avancini of the Mac Performance Junior Black car.
I believe you're talking about the 244 we just may have seen the backdrop you're referring to?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the 244 standing on the outside there. 36th, I think, overall. So no real consideration to our leaders. But yeah, what I want to say, Campbell just hasn't been able to go anywhere close to the pace he was able to earlier. Same thing though for Niels May as well, though Niels May has had the faster pace of the two in the last few minutes. So very interesting development between those two as they also slowly continue to close in on Delta V Racing all along.
Delta V Racing, keep in mind, a French-based team that has been expanding their presence, especially on iRacing. We took part in a French Cup and ended up taking top honors for the final for that French Cup earlier this week. One of those drivers are behind the wheel for much of this race, Martin Mayer. So a team on the rise, so to speak, in terms of representation to lead the charge for their respective group here today. It's interesting for a team that started just a year ago how fast a team can be right from the jump.
Yeah, indeed. If you have the correct pieces fall into line, into place, then your team can hit the ground running, and that's most definitely what happened with the French outfit. They just happened to be there at the right time, in the right place, to make their chances count and most definitely make the best out of them. So if they just continue on that trend they're right now, the future looks very bright for them.
Coming up to 30 minutes on the clock in this race. To be racing, wanting second step of the overall podium to start the season, not backing off Tom Burns. Burns, though, a little stronger on the exit. Question is, can they keep it up here? They are losing the cushion they've had all race to 4/5 on back because GSC Racing is coming, and coming fast.
Yeah, last lap a 52.8 versus 53.6 for Johan Martin Meyer. So has to be careful. Delta V Racing just not able to keep up the pace whatsoever anymore. Might also be a little bit that the track is not developing into their favor because they are slower right now than they were at the same time at the start of this race. So Johan Martin Meyer might already get a little bit exhausted on top of that, which might play a big role into this as well.
You know, they're trying to turn around the corners in the BMW. Mentioned they have an Audi that's now within a second. Sean Campbell about 1 second back of that as well. Step back to turn one, where the Heusinkveld Esports machine coming back from the drive-through earlier. Trying to battle for position, get back to 10th overall. Thomas Cope is a division driver in this group. Jason Dilworth, Division 2.
Prestata Nomad versus Thomas Cope, Olympus Esports. Some very great drives we have seen throughout the race. Some very unnoticed great drives as well throughout this field. Thomas Cope, as mentioned earlier, most definitely one of them, but also Jason Dilworth, they started in 21st overall, finding themselves now in 11th. Sabel Esport, though, on the other hand, Alessio Canzone, he has been on the other end of the stick. Started in 7th, has been in a couple of incidents already, now into 12th place, looking at a little bit of redemption.
Backed up a little bit this time as they are closing in on lap traffic. We'll touch upon that tealish machine, touched upon a team, mind you, that opened in 2017. Respective group. Munstead star competitors, as there goes one of the Division 2 drivers we've seen in contention earlier.
That was Harding, if I saw that correctly. BMW driver, not with the greatest of events thus far. Though started in 45th, now in 24th, you still can consider it a great result, though they most definitely were looking already much higher up the field than they are right now.
Now, one of the Valorous machines losing tons of ground with the slide around and the near spin around. Now we're on their lonesome for the time being. Meanwhile, busy time. This respective group, the Spatulas leading this respective pack. They have a position closing in though. E1 Esport Orange had the drive-through for the very slow start procedure. Now they're in the conversation for this spot. Yeah, Verstrada Nomads 356 also in the conversation behind. Taking a look, E1 Esport Orange trying to charge the corner on the exit, can't close it.
Oh, Rafael in behind on the grass to 356. That could have been disastrous as well, losing out one position to the guys ahead. And also quite a lot of seconds have been lost for the 356 Nomad as well.
Still trying to battle for Division 3 spots though. In 30th overall on the racetrack, Rusty Spatulas. Currently amongst one of the higher runners in the division. They lost plenty of ground, yes, in the pit window to Nick McLaughlin, but they still have a chance at a division podium. One Esport Orange was as high as second before their drive-through earlier on in this event.
Yeah, most definitely one of the better recovery drives there from Bigdorf and the P1 Esports Orange team. 354, I think they can consider this a very great result already, being in 3rd place in Division 3. But obviously, a 2nd place in Division 3 is just that much sweeter.
They have the run. 154.6 last time by to close up near dead even with Rusty Spatulas. The average pace though, and a couple 100s quicker each time. Division 1 car also is closing up that could factor this respective battle. This is the quickest part where they've been really gaining the run to the chicane, but as you see, they just can't get alongside to even think of a move.
Oh, there's a mistake from Rusty Spatulas though.
That opens up the move and makes it easy. So Rusty Spatulas drops back to 3rd in division.
And also seems like the Prestanda Nomad car made a mistake on the same lap as, there we go, Ingersoll Rand GT3 Sprint 134, now past Ferry Beckdorf there. Scandinavian goes down into 31st overall, though good thing for them, still is in 2nd place in Division 3.
Oh, and some more trouble. But esports, we talked about their recovery. Well, their recovery just hit a big snag. Back to 15th they go. Another victim of the chicane heading to the final corner.
Hit a Worth in a fight here. Oh yeah, that was a hit there. Hip check by Emil Winbo of the 236 Valorous Motorsports Apollo. Wouldn't be surprised if we see an investigation there from our race stewards.
Absolutely. We mentioned some of the trains compressing. This one has seen some of the train cars swap around. Dilworth is now ahead of Cope. Winbo is now the cushion that he's trying to pop by Cope to be able to blow by. That made more sense in the head. 10th to 12th currently on the track overall. Winbo trying to close up the run.
Yeah, Division 1 driver Cope there in the Division 2 sandwich of Winbo and Dilworth. You know, in a situation like this, you might as well question yourself, does it even matter that I'm fighting against these guys? Because they're in their own battle, they're fighting for, what is that, I think 5th in class?
Oh,
actually, Winbo spins!
And more disaster for Valorous Motorsports. Another one of their cars spin, and this one is stuck at the side of the track. Not a good place to rejoin. They find a hole, though, to be able to do it.
Has lost so many positions, down to 17th place overall now, Winbo. That has put a very big damper to their challenge. But in class, I just realized only lost one position. Venari Racing now up that one position on Valorous Motorsports Apollo, so still very lucky to not lose one.
Your Division 2 leader is still in this pack. Tom Burns is starting to build a small buffer from it. GSC Racing is trying to find a way around by ACI. Sean Campbell is also in this train. We mentioned him closing. Now this is a 4-car pack in the battle for second overall.
Yeah, the times have started to recover now from Campbell, May, and Martin Meyer. So Burns, he has to still be careful. 20 minutes left. He might still be under pressure from that second place because all of a sudden they are all running either faster or the same pace as himself in that Porsche 911 GT3R.
See how Campbell tries to play this. The undercut strategy in the midst of the pit window, keep in mind, closed up 3/10 last time. This time electing to back up the corner, wait a little bit. Will there be a mistake in front? No, he has a boost in towards the final corner. No send though, not able to get alongside Niels May.
Last corner though, always one of the more desperate measures unless you have a gigantic run on the car ahead. You're always asking for trouble, sending it to the inside. So Sean Campbell deciding better things now, but here comes the launch.
He's taking a peek up the right side. May holding on to the left side. Campbell now trying the diamond. He's trying to poke in the arena section several times today. Try it again. It hasn't worked much today for him. Again, nearly works. Now really does have a shot. Cuts along the side of the track. Campbell able to jump up to 4th.
Wow, great job by Sean Campbell in the RSR by Buttkicker 170 machine. First time all day long we have seen Sean Campbell have better traction than the car he is fighting with. And for the first time, right away, he makes the move. Stick has to defend into the hairpin here, but still makes it happen. And now the question is, he started to be faster than May. How fast can he catch up to the 2 cars up ahead of him and fight for not only 3rd overall, but maybe even 2nd in class?
Going to take a little bit of work, though, to get back up to Tom Burns and John Nohan, Martin Mayer. They've pulled away by about more than a second, so they're squabbling. There is lap traffic holding them up a little bit, though. You see up the racetrack, 356, and caught by those other 2 cars mentioned.
A little bit surprised that Rafael didn't move off the racing line going into the chicane. holds up not only Burns now, but also Martin Mayer on top now. Lets off the throttle ever slightly to let the Delta V racing car back into line. But it's most definitely great news for Sean Campbell if he can make a quick move off that 356.
It gets them back within a second, back in drafting distance, in fact. So Campbell is in line potentially to fight for the podium. Campbell having to make up a fair bit of ground before, but the traffic, see the distance behind that BMW. Mercedes now moves over to the right. The Mercedes AMG machine lets by Sean Campbell now, but it cost them the second they just picked up.
Yeah, it actually did cost them a little bit more than they picked up. So Aiden Refea, at least, he was unkind to both groups. So it evened all out once again. But most definitely could have done a little bit better in terms of, in the eyes of the faster guys trying to get past him.
Traffic giveth, traffic taketh away.
And that is most definitely the point that I was making at the start of this race about traffic management. You have to know when to make your moves. You have to know when not to make your moves. Sometimes you just have to be aggressive with your overtakes to make those second counts. And yeah, Sean Campbell most definitely there a little bit on the wrong end of the stick.
May this time really struggling behind Campbell, having a lift in the middle of the chicane. There's more traffic ahead of these drivers. Remember Rusty Spatulas in their respective battle we were keeping up with? That is the next grouping of cars this train we've been watching has to deal with.
Yeah, but Siliakis most definitely not on the pace of Häkkinen, as Siliakis has lost another position since we last looked. Marcus R. Fox, the 372 Porsche, has gone past as well, and now he has to fight against Spencer Reitzma of JTR Esports in a 345.
Seeing that just up the road from May. Falling back a fair bit from Campbell. Up through the corner this time. The battle referred to is now within 3 car lengths or so. Team Fordzilla car that's at the head of this train on the lead lap. That's going to be the difficult part. If you are in the midst of being a lap down but are fighting for position, how do you play this?
Yeah, it's a very two-sided coin. Obviously, if you're lucky and hit the traffic in a good spot, you can just let them pass and maybe jump on the landing maneuver. Oh my goodness, that was close.
Yeah, Spencer Reitzma just launched Rusty Spatulas through the corner and gained them time. Reitzma giving up the spots now that there's no more battle in the conversation for the time being in the lap traffic, but that was a bit adventurous in front of these lead lap cars.
Maybe want to do that. Looked more a little bit like that was an accident by Spencer Reitzma. Either way, that battle is no question anymore. Sean Campbell now on the back of the 345. Looks to the inside and makes that move into turn 1. Nice and easy. Even opens up the door for Niels May in behind. Though he's not gonna make that pass happen, so he is stuck in behind for at least another turn.
Those small breakups there. May in turn losing the most ground from all that. Conversation is back on as the Fordzilla car tries to get around the last of the traffic. Martin Mayer watching the popcorn seat as there's the send from Tom Burns. Down to about 8 estimated, coming to 7 estimated laps to go in this race. Points on the line to start off the season here, depending on how they fare with the traffic now.
Now Martin Mayer goes past Rusty Spatulas right in behind Sean Campbell. Side by side now going up the hill into the Michael Schumacher S. Celiakis lifts off the throttle ever so slightly to make that pass happen. Niels May now the next one in line, goes to the inside, makes that pass happen as well. And so that group is passed, but Spencer Reitzma right into the rear of
they
Celiakis
have
now.
a 134 car with a broken suspension now break up this pack. They just had contact with Olympus Esports' 242, and now they are off the track. The 134 in the backdrop just went off the circuit. Elias Ruda off circuit as they continue to scrap around. Delta V Racing gives up the bottom side to RSR by butt kicker.
Wonder if that was a mistake by Johan Martinmeier. Didn't look like he wanted to do that, but either way, Sean Campbell now passed as we see the replay from the 134. That day most definitely is done for the Mercedes crew, and Johan Martinmeier actually is letting now also pass Niels May. They realize that they have no fighting here as well to do. They are looking at the bigger picture with 12 minutes to go. They have a lead of, what is that, nearly 20 seconds actually
15.
to Adam Vukovic in the 246.
Yes, indeed. Now the Maniti Racing car has a 20-second advantage over Team Fordzilla. Mind the points paying structure. Respective series divided by the class, so that may be the conversation, knowing how the battle's going on some of the Division 1 drivers. Division 3 drivers are still scrapping though. Rusty Spatulas still trying to hold on. JTR Esports, after a few laps, able to regroup here.
They do have a run though.
In the nose, hard to the inside. Can they make it stick? Yes, they do.
Nicely done.
Nicely
Great.
done. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, great move by Spencer Reitzma there. That's once again a textbook move on Jan Celiakis. He looks to the outside, but that's just a look to unsettle the JTR Esports car a little bit into the NGK chicane. Just perfectly set up. Did take a little bit more of a V-shape hairpin and just use that drive of the grunt that the Mercedes AMG GT3 produces up the hill. Great Michael Schumacher as did need to lift one bit, and that's how they made their cards count against Jan Celiakis and the Rusty Spatulas to move them up another position.
Coming up to the final 10 minutes of this race. Maniti Racing looking to close out Division 1's top spot. Same for Johan Martinmeier to close out Division 2. In 3's Nick McLaughlin with a 26-second advantage, but position still in line. Division 3's podium just as it is for Division 1's.
Yeah, Tom Burns last lap 2/10 slower than Sean Campbell, so even though he has this gap over Campbell in the 170, this Porsche battle for P number 2 not done yet. In 9.5 minutes to go, we are looking at a cracking finish.
Plenty of positions in line. You have the train 2nd through 4 for the Division 1 standings close together. Also, battles still in line for some of the Division 2 positions. And of course, these battles in Division 3. P1 Esport Orange close with Element Sim Racing for the podium. Then JTR battling along, Olympus Esports swapping back. Here's a look at the grouping we mentioned just now. It is still getting close. Tom Burns using all the traffic as buffers he can. V Racers driver Nuno Costa takes away the line from Sean Campbell.
I don't think actually that Sean Campbell did get held up. It was just about big enough the gap, so Campbell was able to take his own lane. 52.183 tells the tale as well. About 2/10 faster than what Tom Burns has to offer is in his Team Fordzilla Porsche 911 GT3R. So Campbell most definitely making very good moves. Niels May though in behind 51.907, 2/10 faster yet. So this is getting closer and closer.
Closer and closer for Sean Campbell to finish inside the top two. Tom Burns does not want that distinction, though, to happen. Under 5 estimated laps to go, down to the final 8 minutes of the race.
With that lapping maneuver off, Niels May actually lost a lot of time through the Mercedes arena. Even Martin Meyer now right on the back of himself, so May might actually be done with the fight for the podium in the Division 1.
May needing these two to scrap a fair bit to have a shot at a Division 1 podium at the rate it is shaping out here. A little bit deeper on the brakes this time for Campbell. Trying to find a way to get back to Burns and the rear end to make the scrap last. The tough thing is, there are not a lot of chances left. Burns has the upper hand with this track position.
Yeah, but they are coming out to traffic once again. Markus R. Fox and Friederike Beckdorf. They are fighting themselves for, I think that's third in their class, actually second in their class, Division 3. So that is going to be very hairy indeed as well, as they don't want to give up track positions themselves, fighting for second in class.
Snake breaking down the front straight away, under 4 estimated to go, under 7 minutes on the clock. Campbell a large send through towards the arena section. Able to close the gap in nearly half with one hit of the brake.
Yeah, 3/10 fast last lap. Sean Campbell 51.972 versus 52.281 for Tom Burns. He is looking at a mighty mountain of pressure that Sean Campbell is looking to put onto the rear end of that Porsche 911.
Pressure getting tighter and tighter. The 3 car lanes once again for the scrap down to the final 6 minutes to work with now. Campbell trying a little bit higher run up through the slightly banked curve. Still not able to close up as they get to Michael Schumacher S. Size up game continues now. Campbell just continuing to go deeper and deeper into these corners.
And just looking at the onboard here already through the 2 turns, you can see how just Tom Burns has to ever so slightly fight the rear end of his 911 GT3 R. Not 100% settled anymore on these worn tires, where Sean Campbell just fully on the throttle, full on attack, doesn't have to worry about any movement from his Porsche 911, and he is now super close to the back end of that Team Fordzilla car.
Couple different jolts on the Snake this time. Campbell showing the nose. Too far out to make the move, nearly hits the back end. Near the both of them with the transition on the difference of elevation, nearly spun it.
Sean Campbell continuing to get faster and faster. Fastest personal lap last time around for him, 51.859. That might even be faster than Max Riedmüller did. Yes, indeed, faster than any of the last 10 laps of Max Riedmüller himself, being the fastest car out there on track currently.
Matter of fact, Campbell set the fastest lap of the race in terms of valid time. Last time by with the slipstream. Coming up to 2 estimated to go. The traffic likely to play a factor. We mentioned Marcus Fox. We mentioned Friederike Beckdorf up the road. They are within 10 car lengths of this fight. Look from the back end of Burns. There's the peak from Campbell underneath the wheel spoiler. Not able to get to the back end this time as make the way towards the chicane.
Yeah, just a touch too aggressive from Campbell. Did miss his braking marker by maybe 5 meters, and that sent him already 3-4 meters wide at the apex. Lost a little bit of time again, but I'm sure, especially with the traffic coming up, this might close right up once again, as they now have 3 cars to be concerned about.
Absolutely, as they make their way into the corner. No snake this time. Burns trying to use some of the draft from the lap traffic. 3 minutes to go. 2 estimated laps to go up on the board. Campbell taking a flick out to the right. Again, can't get alongside. Couple more chances for Campbell to go for. Traffic within 5 car lengths now. Campbell has his line taken by Burns this time. Burns trying to take away some of those lines that he was utilizing before. Campbell the rollout. Backs it up. Burns now picking up sizable amounts of draft from Fox, as well as the rest of the lap traffic train. Final lap and a half, coming to 2 minutes to go on the board.
All this is happening about 21.5 seconds behind Maniti Racing's Max Riedmüller, who is set to look as taking on the first victory of the season, bar any major catastrophes. I don't think we're gonna see anyone else win this round than him.
Maniti Racing absolutely dominant today, looking to come down the front straightaway at the moment. No indication from Barney about the flag. The 163 just had a small issue for RSR by butt kicker. Their teammates, the 170, look to work through the traffic down to the final 90 seconds. Here comes Campbell on the outside. He hits the rear end of Tom Burns.
Small touch there to the left rear rather, of Tom Burns. Did unsettle himself just a tiny bit, did get the run, and that's why we see them separate by about 2 car lengths now, closes it right up on the brakes once again.
Black flag for Division 2 team JTR Esports, the 268. Dustin Smith behind the wheel of that car, not the way they want to close it out. Fordzilla looking to close it out by getting around the traffic quickly. Campbell trying to find a way to keep toe-to-toe for a move. One more lap car to get around to the battle for second. Under a minute to go as Ryan Hardridge moves over to the right. Burns able to take the left side. Campbell hard right at the corner this time as they make their way through the Ford curve.
And Niels May has closed up a little bit once again to these two, but with the traffic now separating them, his day is most definitely done fighting for this podium. It's all about Sean Campbell versus Tom Burns. Who is going to take second home? Who is going to take third home here in the first round of the IVRA GT Sprint Series presented by Heusinkveld?
Clock about to reach full zeros. Campbell running out of chances. Final lap indicator given. Maniti Racing is already coming out from the final corner now. Maniti Racing outright dominates, coming towards the front straightaway. Maniti Racing dominates Division 1. Meanwhile, for second, it's not over. One more chance for Campbell. Will he lick the stamp? No. Campbell lets it roll. Campbell will take third. Tom Burns takes second here at the Nürburgring. Precision Racing Esports has crossed the line to win Division 3. Delta V Racing crosses the line to take Division 2. What a run for both the other divisions. Martin Mayer and McLaughlin dominate their respective classes.
Yeah, most definitely very great results by them. Pretty much same domination as we saw in Division 1 from Division 2 and 3 leaders as well. Precision Racing Esports maybe just a tiny bit lucky with that big accident we saw about 30 minutes ago for both our leaders in the Division 3 car, but as they say, you have to be lucky to be in first place. It's not just about skill sometimes.
Leland very quiet today in the 105. Lips up, not able to hold off, or does hold on, I should say, the Ford of Ethan Bass. That was for the top 20 Only one car, check that too, to cross the stripe. But the Team Heusinkveld cars will close out those finishing in this one as the rest of the drivers close things out with the roll through the cooldown lap. But today it's Maniti Racing who picks up Division 1 victory, Division 2 victory, going the direction of Delta V, and a Division 3 victory going the way of Precision Racing Esports. Let's take a look at your unofficial race results. This is sorted by division. The gap between first and second today, 22 seconds. Tom Burns for Team Fordzilla holding off Sean Campbell at the end. Niels May for GSC Racing by ACI drove the car to 4th. Jeremy Gonsalves, Precision Racing Esports in 5th. German Sim Racing in 6th. Team Heusinkveld, Fordzilla, Olympus, and Saybout Esports rounding out your top 10 today. Coming away with the top 11, Nick Madsen for Make Performance SRT. One of the RSR by Butt Kicker cars, the 163 in 12th. 5-Star Motorsport, 13th in class, 20th overall. Out the elite lap finishers. Absolute Motorsport, Asuth Jr. coming back from a penalty to start off the day, 1 lap down. Then RSR by Butt Kickers 171, 3 laps down. Ingersoll Rand, one of their cars, finished 6 laps down, the 134 did. German Sim Racing 127, 21 laps down, DNF'd. Dirt Sims Esports also DNF'd after a flurry of drive-thrus today, 39 laps down. 5-Star Motorsport in Ingersoll ran the top 20 in class. Division 1 had plenty of adventures today. Division 2 went the way of Delta V Racing. They had a strong qualifying performance and maintained that domination through the night. They hold off German Sim Racing by 14 seconds with Verstrada Nomad in 3rd. Ray Racing, Alberts Motorsports, TNT Esports, Element Sim Racing, Orbit Motorsport, Pusha Payment Esports, and Team Heusinkveld, the top 10. Top break for the 287, they were top 2 at one point. GTR Esports picked up a penalty late in the race. They finished 11th though, 2 minutes and 6 seconds back. Then Steve Mello, who was supposed to be RD Simsport, coming back after being accidentally Team Steve Mello today, 1 lap down in 12. Then Drew Swank for Swank Racing, followed by Rios Motorsports, Olympus Esports, Clips Racing Team, Make Performance Jr., Blazar Sim Racing, iLivery's Vibe Sports, who was in contention early, and the second Delta V Racing car round out the top 20. The rest of the entrants fiercely forward after technical issues pulled out. Dios Racing Esports very quietly, 56 laps down. Vector by RSR crashed in the opening lap as well. Venari Racing with troubles early round out Division 2. Division 3 dominated by Precision Racing Esports after the pit stops. How about a 1-lap advantage in the end on the ticker? They hold off P1 Esport, Element Sim Racing, and JTR Esports, the top 4. Rusty Spatulas was in the conversation, dropping back to 5th at the end. Strada Nomad, followed by Aquila Racing, Olympus Esports, V Racers, and Make Performance Jr., the top 10 today. The last driver in the class, World of Sim Racing Team, 33 laps down. Reed Muller taking the fastest lap in the closing stages. He also takes the first win of the season. Max now joins us. Believe your team boss calling you Supermax with your run today. How about 22 seconds up from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, thank you. It was a really good race. The car drove so well today. It was beauty to drive. Yeah, it was amazing out there today.
Of course, it wasn't easy off from the start. You had to hold off and battle with one of the German sim racing cars, for they had their mistake. What was that focus like when you seen the mistake develop in your rear mirror and then started to pull the brake away?
Yeah, when you must make the mistake, the focus was to extend the lead, and yeah, made no major mistakes, and yeah, that's what today happened, and yeah, I'm really happy.
So a dominant run to start off the season. The next race going to go off towards Italy. Your thoughts on the second round of the campaign to try and keep up this momentum to start off the year?
Yeah, I don't know. Imola is next race, I think. Concentrate about that race and hopefully that race will also goes down like today's race.
Well, congratulations on the victory today in car 101. You win the opening round of the season. Division 1 winners for the IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Can I say some thanks also?
Sure.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to Maniti for letting me drive this beauty one car, and also thanks to Dennis Hippel. He made such a nice setup with me, and yeah, it was such great to drive today. Thanks.
Congratulations once again to Max Rainmower coming away with the victory for Maniti Racing 101 machine. Standing by now is the winner of Division 3 today, Nick McLaughlin. Precision Racing Esports, very dominant in PRL competition this year in this type of car. He's with Stefan as they discuss the Division 3 win.
Yeah, Nick, a very great drive, nearly underrated drive from you out there today. Didn't see much of you until it mattered the most. Talk us through your guys' races out there, because quite honestly, you were so on the radar, not even a submarine would have picked you up.
Well, thanks, Justin. Thanks, Stefan. Yeah, it was the whole back half of the race was actually really quiet. The first half of the race is definitely not super scruffy. We had a couple guys spin. There was contact a couple times, and I just managed to sneak through, kept the car in one piece. Yeah, I think there was a lot of drive-through errors that caught some guys out. So just an error-free race, and we managed to take the W.
Yeah, as the saying goes, Nick, to finish first, you have to finish first, and you most definitely made that come true. Now, going into the race, how was your plan for it? How did you set it up? Did you have a strategy when you want to pit, how you want to pit, or did you just free wing it?
There's a kind of the base strategy, and then you just tweak on the fly. I had a lot of extra fuel from the start of the race, so I just pushed it as far as I could, and just pit in just before the exit closed, and it worked out in my favor. I came out in clean air after that and just drove it home.
So a very nice and clean strategy developed by you on the fly, it seems. Next up, we're actually going to quite a different track, a little bit less flow. It's the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edina Ferrari. Talk us through your thoughts, especially on that Mercedes. How is it going to tackle those high curbs in Imola?
On the curbing, it should be nice. The car eats the curbs beautifully. As for the car itself, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm not used to driving the Mercedes. I'm more of a mid to rear engine driver, but I'm feeling a lot better after this race. I'll put mega laps in at Imola, and we'll get it figured out, especially with the help of my sister car there. They helped a lot.
Well, watch out, competition is still trying to figure out the car, and already with the first win in the books. Nick, thank you very much for talking to us, and enjoy your afternoon, or rather night, because afternoon, because you're Canadian.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the broadcast, and thanks the Precision Racing team for helping me out as well.
That was your Division 3 winner right there, Nick McLaughlin, Justin Prince.
McLaughlin with a strong second half to this race today. Meanwhile, Division 2, it had plenty of excitement in its own right, but Delta V Racing put themselves on the charts today, qualifying up inside the top 5, and in turn, holding on to the victory today inside the top 5 to finish things out after a top 3 qualifying run. Johan Martin Mayer joins us now. Johan, how are you feeling? Hello!
I'm feeling very out, quite tired. My eyes are like exploded by the VR, but I'm so happy now.
It all started with qualifying. How would you describe that qualifying effort that got you a big buffer over the rest of Division 2 to start?
Yeah, clearly. That was a pretty good lap. I prepared it very well with 2 very slow laps to maintain the pressure low, and then I just put everything in the right place, and yeah, it was a pretty good lap, but I still have maybe 1/10 that I can have, so I could have been in pole position.
Indeed, it was an interesting race for you guys in turn with the speed. Now, how do you build upon that to continue on the campaign after this strong start, a top 5 overall?
And training again. I don't know what's the next track in the schedule, but I have no choice to train now to try to keep this first position in the second class. So yeah, very happy.
Pressure is on, indeed. Congratulations on your victory in Division 2.
Thank you very much.
And Martin Mayer coming away with the victory for Delta V Racing. Round out your top runners in the divisions today. We've also standing by, we have one more driver who is in the wings, Emil Winbo. We've seen some eventful moments. Emil, up and down for your team today, in contention at one point for the class. How would you describe your team's run?
Yeah, I wasn't really able to put a good qualifying lap together, so started quite a few places further back than I would have liked. And then, yeah, I had a good start, made it up to P11, I think, on the first lap. Sat there until I dropped it between the last chicane and last corner. Touched the grass on the outside, and yeah, that's not very... You shouldn't do that on everything, it's a bad idea. So spun there, lost 13 seconds. Got back to what I think could have been maybe a podium in class. Until, I don't know, I lost it on a curb again out of, or in the left-right before the back straight. Not really sure why I lost the rear, but I did, and lost another 17 seconds or so. I think P5 in the end, so pace was very strong when I wasn't busy turning around from spins.
Seemed like an interesting run overall, despite the spins for your respective team. How would you describe your team's preparation coming into this round, and how well, in turn, you executed that game plan entering the race?
Well, Lewis, who did half this race in the teammate car, he did endurance yesterday as well, so he was a bit limited on practice. I had probably not much practice as I would maybe have liked, but excluding the 2 mistakes, which, I mean, I have a habit of overdriving, which is not good, but that's something I'm working on. I still think I'm pretty happy with the pace, considering the relative lack of practice. Yeah, decent results considering the DNF we had in endurance yesterday.
Imola is up next. Your team's thoughts on Imola and the confidence levels there?
It was a good track, I think, before they updated the track limits. Now the track limits are very strict in a lot of corners, so I think there's going to be a lot of drive-thrus. And yeah, and I think endurance is the day before as well, so split efforts. Hopefully can find enough time to do reasonable amounts of practice for both races.
Well, congratulations on how your run played out. In terms of finishing run, congratulations for car 236.
Thank you.
Ilya Winbo coming away with the solid run in the end, despite some of the mistakes early going. And with that, a stellar start to the season. The next time out for this series, we go to Imola, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo E. Dino Ferrari, November the 27th. That starts at 1440 UTC. Be sure to tune in for the end of November tilt. On your final quick thoughts on how today played out.
Well, Justin, I have to say I'm very pleased with how the admins came up for the BOP. We have seen multiple car manufacturers inside the top 5 and 6 in contention for podiums all around the divisions. So they have done a beautiful job on providing us great racing. The teams as well. Attrition wasn't as high as I probably expected for the opening round of a season. So that is something to look out for as well in the next few rounds, because Imola, most definitely quite a different horse to the Nürburgring. Very flowing, the Nürburgring was very choppy. The Imola Autodrome is going to be.
On that note, it's time to say goodbye. For the rest of our crew, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the IVRA GT Sprint Series, powered by Heusinkveld.